Wisdom whispers in the wind, folly screams with twisted grin. Discipline the mark of knowledge, rebukes will bring the stupid to college. Kind words heal the weary soul, hatred makes a mighty whole. Diligent hands bring wealth and gain, while lazy hands bring nothing but pain. Seek truth where the light resides, turn away from hurtful lies. Walk with wisdom, rise each day, follow love and you'll find your way. Gentle hand turns wrath aside, harsh words spark the fiercest tide. Honesty a beacon bright, lies dissolve in darkest night. A proverb a day will bring wisdom your way. Read a chapter each calendar day, Proverbs every day. Get your Proverbs every day. Seek truth where the light resides, turn away from hurtful lies. Walk with honor, rise each day, follow love and you'll find your way. Seek truth where the light resides, turn away from hurtful lies. Walk with honor, rise each day, follow love and you'll find your way. Love, knowledge, love, discipline, reject, rebuke, don't be stupid kin. Rise up and roast your game, laziness will rob you of the same. Read a proverb every day, let words of wisdom guide the way.
It's time for Proverbs every day. Words of wisdom show you the way. Every month a whole new look, different version of the book. Reading the whole chapter each calendar day. Proverbs every day. Proverbs every day.
All right, I guess my timer was a little off there. Oh well. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Proverbs Every Day. My name is DJ, and yeah, this is kind of what we do. We're going to be reading from Proverbs 13 today. I know that's going to be a little confusing for some people that are used to the days lining up, but February kind of messes with us a little bit, so we're going to be doing it this way. So yeah, just an interesting little way this is going to be done, but we'll get into it. So let's start with a bit of prayer, and then we'll dive right in. Father God, thank you so much for another day, and that you can be our words of wisdom this morning. So Father, even in times that are challenging for us, that we see a butting of heads of sorts between philosophies and all of this noise out there in the world, Father, help us to quiet down today and to listen to your words and gain true understanding and actual truth from them. And Father, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, let's click that button right there. It brings us right to there. Proverbs 13. We're reading in the Holman Christian Standard Bible translation. A wise son responds to his father's discipline, but a mocker doesn't listen to rebuke. From the words of his mouth, a man will enjoy good things, but treacherous people have an appetite for violence. The one who guards his mouth protects his life. The one who opens his lips invites his own ruin. You're seeing some similar patterns, I think, at this point. Repetition is key. Keeps it fresh in our minds. Verse 4, the slacker craves, yet has nothing, but the diligent is fully satisfied. The righteous hate lying, but the wicked act disgustingly and disgracefully. We're not called to hate a whole lot in our lives, but that is one that we're called to have an extreme distaste for sure. Verse 6, righteousness guards people of integrity, or guides integrity of way is another way to say that. But wickedness undermines the sinner. This is something that I think gets missed. I think a lot of times we tend to fall into the pattern of the world of not actually believing in God's abundance in that regards, that we tend to look at things from a very limited perspective and not realize that it is that process that guards, not just simply being that God is looking out for us, but that process of becoming of who he wants us to be empowers us to do that. And so that's a guard for people of integrity. If we integrity meaning solid, meaning not shakable. If we are those kind of people, then that's what guards us, and it's not just simply a reward. It's not simply we're getting what we deserve or whatever. That's not what it is. It's more of that God has created a system to where if we are people of integrity, then we have this natural result. It's like we can't help it. So that's just to clarify that. It's really important to not think in kind of victim mentalities, but think of victor mentalities where we can't help but be successful. It's just not even possible to not if we're living in these kind of ways. But in the same way, wickedness undermines the sinner. So it's one of those things where it's like, again, it's not about being punished. It's about that they just are having the same kind of results. It's the system that they're working in. The way God has created the system, it works the other way as well. If they are being wicked, then that constantly undermines what they want. Let's move on to verse 7 here. One man pretends to be rich, but has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, but has great wealth. And again, this is one of those where we have extremes, and we're trying to find where we're living in those extremes, right? So it's not necessarily good or bad as far as the money goes. It's our attitude towards it. Similarly here, at verse 8, riches are a ransom for a man's life, but a poor man hears no threat. So in other words, there's things that come with that. It's not just responsibility, but there's also, yeah, okay, well, you've got some things you're going to have to be concerned with too. So are you sure you want to be rich? Are you sure you want a bunch of wealth? Verse 9, the lamp of the righteous shines brightly, but the lamp of the wicked is put out. Arrogance leads to nothing but strife, but wisdom is gained by those who take advice. Um, yeah. Let's just say that I have been working on this in my life, that I didn't think I was arrogant, but the reality is that I've become very much, no, this is right and you're wrong, and that sort of thing. Or not necessarily they're wrong, but it's like, no, I know, and it's I just that kind of arrogance. And finding out recently that I kind of submitted myself to some guidance recently, and everybody at the table there was about six of us, and we're kind of going around in a mastermind style. And I was very much feeling that whole like, why do I have to explain this? Just trust that I know what I'm talking about, kind of things. And what I didn't realize is how that came across. It didn't come off as arrogant. It came off as I didn't care about what I was talking about. And so I had to really check myself. It's like, oh, is that true? And it turns out that yeah, there was a bunch of, like it says here, strife in my life because I was being arrogant about it. I was being very defensive and just saying, I've heard this all before. I don't want to hear it again. I don't want to have to explain myself again, all these kind of things. And yeah, it kept me from taking that advice. And wisdom is gained by those who take advice. And so it's just really, it's really key. And we're not exempt from this just because we have a practice of reading a proverb every day and we do it faithfully. It doesn't excuse us from this. In fact, it makes us seek after that more, I hope. So yeah, it's just a interesting little aside there. Just do some oversharing for you this morning. Yeah. Verse 11, wealth obtained by fraud will dwindle, but everyone who earns it through labor, or whoever gathers it up upon his hand, will multiply it. Delayed hope makes the heart sick, but fulfilled desire is a tree of life. Verse 13, the one who has contempt for instruction will pay the penalty, but the one who respects a command will be rewarded. Verse 14, a wise man's instruction is a fountain of life, turning people away from the snares of death. Good sense wins favor, but the way of the treacherous never changes. Other sources read, the treacherous will perish, which I think I've seen that more commonly. Good sense wins favor. The way of the treacherous never changes. That is kind of interesting that they translated it that way. Verse 16, every sensible person acts knowledgeably, but a fool displays his stupidity. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a trustworthy courier brings healing. Poverty and disgrace come to those who ignore discipline, but the one who accepts correction will be honored. Yeah, I've seen that. Absolutely. Verse 19, desire fulfilled is sweet to the taste, but to turn from evil is an abomination to fools. Ah, yes. The one who walks with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools will suffer harm. Common highlight there, but it's something we need to remember. Just yesterday I was watching a video from someone, and they quoted this, and I quote it frequently too. That you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So how you gonna up that average there? If you're a companion of fools, you'll suffer harm. And yeah, it's just the way of our nature that we 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 may think we're like a leader or someone who is ministering that sort of thing. But even people in that need to spend significant amounts of time with people that are wise. Otherwise, yeah, some bad results happen. That's just over time. It's like a bank. If you keep withdrawing from it and you never put anything back in it, it's gonna run out. Verse 21. Disaster pursues sinners. Disaster pursues sinners, but good rewards the righteous. I had the emphasis on the wrong syllable there. Disaster pursues sinners, but good rewards the righteous. Verse 22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren. I'm not sure what the footnote means on that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. I often think of people that are just after the moment and not thinking of the future, and they just amass wealth, and then what happens to it? You just hear about it just going away. So this saying it's stored up for the righteous. In other words, they're making a bunch of money, but eventually it'll just go to the people that are acting in righteousness. It's a weird way to think about it, but again, we're operating in a system here. It's not a morality thing. We're operating in a system. Verse 23. The uncultivated field of the poor yields abundant food, but without justice, it is swept away. This is translated differently sometimes as well. The without justice, it is swept away. I think I like this better, the way that's actually translated. I think that actually makes more sense. But it is kind of weird. Like the uncultivated field of the poor yields abundant food. Without justice swept away. Yeah, it's a very odd. In fact, maybe we'll just do a quick cross reference on this one, just to kind of get some perspectives on it. It's a very, very odd verse. It is very odd. Yeah, we're almost at the end here. What I'll do is I'll do a cross reference at the end here. Verse 24. But the one who will not use the rod hates his son, but the one who loves him disciplines him diligently. And this is such a hard one for people to get, who will not use the rod. Catch that. I like this translation. Hates his son, but who loves him disciplines him diligently. Heard the spare the rod, spoil the child. Yeah, okay, well, this puts it differently, doesn't it? It's not about the child, is it? It is about the parent and their perspective on this. About you raising adults, not children that will just stay children. So where are you gonna leave them when they go out on their own? They gotta prepare them with diligent discipline, or are you gonna just let them just be, and then they start using words like their truth, and we get what we're seeing in the world today. It's not unique. We've seen this before. This is not new. It has new ways of expressing itself, but it's not a new thing. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do with your children. I'm not going to sit there and do this, but I will say, reflect on this and see what God tells you to do with it. Verse 25 to finish this up here. A righteous man eats until he's satisfied, but the stomach of the wicked is empty. Which is interesting in other contexts where we find that there's, gluttony and things like that. And it's again the system here. If you are, living in wickedness, then you don't have a sure thing. Whereas if you have that foundation of integrity, then you have a you know a different way of thinking about things, and you're not after eating as much as you possibly can in that moment because you have a system in place and you have that preparedness. And so satisfied is not overeating. Quite the opposite, actually. This is actually indicating that the the stomach of the wicked, meaning that they are always eating, they're always hungry, and they cannot get enough, because that's what wickedness. It has no limits in that regards. You're walking down a path that's just never going to end, in that path of wickedness, and so it's something where you just will always have those things you want more of, and you'll never be satisfied. So let's do a cross reference on that verse down there. I'm kind of curious about it. So let's see. I was looking at 23. And the NIV has an interesting way to say this. An unplowed field produces food for the poor, but injustice sweeps it away. And I think that's more of just like it kind of uncultivated, unplowed. It is if things are growing there naturally, then it is just basically there for the taking as the people need it, sort of thing. And so it's not an uncommon practice to leave in this culture to leave a field un just to do its own thing for a time, to kind of just recover and not be cultivated in that way. And so whenever it produces, you're not taking, you're giving to the poor, that sort of thing. And then there's incidents of that, which actually kind of is cool when you think about it. But injustice sweeps it away. In other words, there's if there's not a sense of justice in the land as a commitment of the people, then that can be exploited and swept away. I want to look at the amplified version real quick. I think I have time. I'm limited, but I think I want to just take one more perspective of that, just because it is a very confusing. The way it's worded is just very, very strange. It's 23. So the Amplified translation says, abundant food is in the fallow or uncultivated ground of the poor, but without protection, it is swept away by injustice. So, yeah, I think that we can also interpret that as saying that we're being called towards having an orientation of making sure that the poor are cared for. And in my mind, there's also a matter of just not just caring for the poor, but to encourage them and to basically kind of help them to cultivate. But it has to start somewhere. There has to be a bridge, and then we have to do that. And honestly, I know this is one of those things where people get all uptight and all that kind of stuff, and there's just endless debates on this and things like that. But well, let me just say this while I finish up here. If you are relying on others to do charity on your behalf, what does that make you? What does that say about you? If you are a person that says, no, I give my money to them so they can do it. I don't want to be bothered with it. Basically, is what you're saying here. You're not personally committed to seeing the poor, the marginalized, to be cared for. You're not personally doing anything with that. You don't give any of your time. You just give up your money, right? And I'm not saying you need to be, going beyond what you feel called to do. Always just go to God with this and see where He's at with this. But the honest truth is, what I see in our world is a lot of that kind of country club mentality. I was with a group this morning, and we were talking about this, about how giving works, and how um, this concept of knowing you can't outgive God, but trying anyway. It was an interesting way to perceive this, but also just of people giving when they really didn't think they have very much, or we wouldn't think they have much, and we'd kind of just encourage them to just hang on to that, sort of thing. But they give anyway. It's just an attitude. It's just an orientation, and it strikes me that we are living in a culture that says, "Oh well, we'll just let the government do that for us. We'll just let the church do that for us," and we don't think to take any kind of personal involvement with that. Now, if money is what you want to use as an example for this, it's one thing to give your money with a caveat, saying, "Oh no, this is I expect you to do this with this," um, and it's another thing to just expect that they will somehow just figure it out on their own and sort of thing. But I think both attitudes are missing the point, that we need to be personally committed to caring for those that are in need, and getting them out of that need, not keeping them in that need. And I think that's what happens when we offload that to someone else. It becomes a system at that point. It doesn't become personal anymore. So we are just basically contributing to a system that is literally keeping people poor. At that point, it can't not, right? It's built to constantly care for the poor. It doesn't exist without the poor, so it naturally will keep them there. So without that personal involvement, without us being kind of boots on the ground, I guess you could say, then I don't know what hope there is. And honestly, I'm personally looking at some ways I can get better about that in my life, as I've not been in past years. I've not really been doing as much as I know I could, and so I'm trying to increase my conviction on that as well. And so hearing that this morning in this other group I was part of was a good reminder to me that it's just like it's not okay for me to just send off my money and call it good. It's not, that's just not good enough. That's not what protecting them from injustice is. It's just furthering a system where they can be continued to be unprotected in that way. If they're reliant on another system, they're unprotected. They're not being protected with that system. They're actually being kept where they are, which is not protection. It's like, yeah. Anyway, I hope that resonates. I hope I've said that in a way that actually um, causes the spirit to move, and not just that it's me just talking because I'm frustrated. Because both are kind of true in my life right now. So yeah, I hope that was helpful to you, and I do hope that you are, of course, blessed by the best, and then be a blessing in all the rest. I keep forgetting to mention this. This is a quick way to share the YouTube channel with people, that'll encourage them to subscribe right away and see the channel. If you go to 11talents.co/YT, that's a link you can give to your friends. I don't know why. Just this morning I was like, I've had that for months, and I don't think about equipping you to better do that. And so here's a reminder that link actually does work. So you just go to 11talents.co/YT. It's really easy to share. So there you go. I'll get better about reminding you and reminding myself to remind you, that sort of thing. But I do thank you for all the support, and we'll see you again tomorrow on the 13th for chapter 14. February. Love you guys. Be blessed by the best, and then go be a blessing and all the rest. See you tomorrow.